So the fall of Manchuria then set the stage for further communist gains in the Battle of Huaihai. So this was the key battle that set the stage for communist advances on Nanjing and Beijing, and Nanjing and Shanghai. So, and you were there. So tell us that story.
Okay. Incidentally, Roy, I don't think I ever told you that I was in Mukden before you got there. But with the communists closing in, I didn't have the nerve to stay, so I got out and left you to cover the fall of the city.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Huaihai. I covered the siege of a city called Suzhou. Suzhou was a key city on the vast Huaipai plain in central China. I covered the siege of that city at a time when the greatest battle of the Civil War, the Battle of the Huaihai, was shaping up, because on that plain, that vast plain, something like 1 million soldiers were confronting each other. That is, 500,000 on either side for this battle. But I flew out of Suzhou to Shanghai. I flew out on a plane, on a nationalist plane, loaded with wounded soldiers. And when I got to Shanghai, I met with Fred Hampson, who was the AP bureau chief. And we talked about this advance that was taking place on Shanghai. The troops concentrated on that plain up in central China. And then he said, you know, one thing about this war that's missing, there are no Western correspondents with the communists. None at all. And then he looked at me significantly. And I was young and ambitious, and I took the hint. So I hastened back to Nanking, and then I concocted something of a rather wild plan. I would go up to Pengpu, which was a city on the Huai River, about 150 miles north of Nanking. There was an Italian Jesuit mission there. I would go into the mission, and as the communists advanced and overran Pengpu, I would pop out of the mission and say, "Here, Seymour, take me to your leader." Chiang Kai-shek, not Chiang Kai-shek, rather Mao Zedong. The problem was that the communists didn't come right away, and Christmas Eve I was still in the mission, and Harold Milks, who was a correspondent, an AP correspondent in Nanking, he sent a little message, a little story saying Seymour Topping is the loneliest man in the AP this Christmas Eve. Well, what happened was that my fiancée, Audrey Ronning, was at that time, she was in Vancouver, attending the University of British Columbia. And she was walking through the streets, on a rainy day, and she noticed in the gutter there was a newspaper And the newspaper, had a little box on the front page about Seymour, me. And so that's the only way she knew where I was at that point, by this chance. But in any case, finally, when the communists didn't come into Pangpu, I decided the only thing I'm going to do is cross the lines. So the day after New Year's, with two peasants carrying my baggage with me, I crossed the lines. And we hadn't gone very far when we ran into trigger-happy communist guerrillas who took me. And they took me and they turned me over to some nearby regular communist troops who were in the area. And then we began a march by walking and by horse over battlefields where some of the killed still lay unburied, until we came up to a town near a place called Susian, and that was the main communist headquarters. And there, they put me in a peasant hut, and a commissar, a political commissar, came in and interrogated me and so on. And I tell him, look, I want to see Mao Zedong, and he sort of nodded. But I stayed for almost 10 days in that hut. But the hut was on the edge of a battlefield where 300,000 communists were surrounding the remnants of that Suzhou garrison, which had come south. There were about 130,000 combatants with them. And so I stayed in that hut, sometimes strafed by nationalist planes. And then early one morning, the artillery fire stopped. I couldn't hear any more artillery fire, which I'd heard day after day. And I knew at that point that the communists had gone in for the kill and knocked out the nationalist forces, who were lined up behind trucks of their convoy, defending their position. And at that point, the commissar reappeared, and he said, "We can't take responsibility for you anymore. You're leaving." Apparently, my request for an interview with Mao had not been honored. He said, "The horses are waiting." I went out, and there was the horses with an escort. And I got on the plane, and we began to make our way back towards the nationalist lines. Well, that battle where I'd heard all of this artillery fire was the final military operation of the Battle of the Huaihai. It had gone on for 65 days. And in those 65 days, the communists had knocked out 555,000 nationalist troops, more than a 500,000. In the battle, the communists lost 30,000 killed. In that poster, which my wife brought in, there are some illustrations of the Battle of the Huaihai, because on the anniversary of that battle, I was invited back to a museum which is set up in China dedicated to that battle. And she took photographs of those illustrations of actual battle scenes on that Waipai plain.
Good.
Well, just in conclusion, the point is that that battle and the way it ended for the communists opened up the way for the advance across the Yangtze of Nanking and Shanghai.